we play the MLB blame game, way too early NBA predictions, what went wrong for the Longhorns against OU, and how they can bounce back against Kansas. Stay tuned. This is College Crossfire.
No paparazzi, no paparazzi.
Always enthusiastic, unbelievable, hard-nosed.
All right, let me explain why Aaron Judge is getting it. You can boo me all you want.
I knew Texas was going to win, right? And then one of the Texas team was going to lose.
Cannon. I don't like the cannon.
Oh,
Wait, you don't like this?
All right, I'm done.
This is all chaos.
Welcome back to College Crossfire. I'm your host, Turner Barnes. I don't know about y'all, but this has been a sad week. Just walking through it after Saturday. Hopefully some sports debate will cheer us up a little bit.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, all right. Let's meet the panel. First base, returning champion, Justin Barnes.
Returning champion. Let's do it again.
All right. Confident. Second base, we got Jake Herman. How you doing?
I'm doing great, and major shout out that time. Happy birthday, Josh Martella. Happy belated.
Claps for Josh Martella. And Jackson.
And Jackson.
We got a lot of birthdays this month.
Oh, Jackson, yeah.
A lot of birthdays this month. And on third base, we got Jared Murphy. First time ever on the show. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling like I'm here to win.
All right, we got three people who are ready to win. Let's get right into it, guys.
Give it all to us.
After Texas's 34-27 loss to Oklahoma Saturday, very few Longhorns could go away from the game satisfied with their performance. The offense allowed Sam Ehlinger to be sacked 9 times. The defense gave up over 500 yards, and even the special teamers made some questionable decisions. But which unit for the Texas Longhorns played the worst? Anybody can answer. Oh, actually, we're going to go in order first.
All right, sounds good. I'll start off then. It's got to come down to that offensive line.
Yes.
Allowing Sam Ehlinger to get sacked 9 times is pretty abysmal. That's tied for the most of all time, and it could not have come in a worse situation against a really good competition against OU. Besides that, I think it's hard to kind of point the defense as being, the bad guys, just in the sense of that, half of those guys aren't starters. Half of those guys haven't seen much playing time at all this year. So it's hard to point fingers at them, but if it was up to me, I'd be pointing my fingers right now at the offensive line saying, hey, how did, an OU defender get through you guys 9 times to sack Heisman contending quarterback Sam Ehlinger?
I'm actually going to go ahead and point the finger at the defense right now, even though it might be hard to do. I'm looking at a defensive unit that gave up 511 yards. 511 yards, 276 of which came on the ground. Oklahoma averaged 7 yards a carry, and in the second half we saw a very similar game script to Texas's other loss against LSU. A cat and mouse situation. Texas' offense did figure things out in the second half. The offensive line began to give Ehlinger enough time, but the defense just couldn't get that one key stop, much like the second half of the LSU game. I think that Todd Orlando needs to take a look at reimagining some of his schemes going forward, because whatever Texas did on defense that game did not work.
I'm going to go and agree with Turner. I'm going to have to blame Oh, not
Agree with me. All right. Let's see what you got.
I'm going to have to agree with him because, the offense, they did struggle. The first half, they didn't get it, they barely got 3 points, and then they kind of wrapped themselves together and got at least 24 points the second half. But, overall, they should have did a much better job to cover Sam.
I mean, I'm not going to agree with any of you guys. I mean, y'all all got a little bit of points, but you can't completely blame the offensive line for the sacks. Partially, some blame goes to Sam Ehlinger on that. Some blame goes to the running backs, the play calling.
A little bit.
And the defense, the defense forced 2 turnovers when the game could have gotten easily out of hand, and everybody is hurt on the defense.
Absolutely.
You can't do some crazy things that you would if all your starters are in. But what do you got?
I was just going to say, you have to be able to tackle in space.
That's true.
And the defense is just not able to do that.
Yeah, whenever you have 5 defenders right there, and none of them can take down an OU receiver, I do agree with you in that aspect of this is partially to blame for the defense.
Yeah.
Exactly. With them dealing with all the injuries, like you said, it's just they're trying to catch up, replace what's missing, and try to hold their own against in the Texas Conference, such a strong defensive line as OU.
Yeah, nobody expected Oklahoma's defensive line to look the way it did on Saturday. They definitely dominated. That was a great discussion. Justin, you're starting with 3. Jake, you're starting with 3. Jared, you're starting with 2. Coming into Saturday's game, Texas was ranked number 11 in the country. the Longhorns have lost both of their games against ranked opponents, leaving some to wonder if Texas is as good as they thought they were.
What?
So were Texas overrated? Was Texas overrated coming into the Red River Showdown, or did they just run into a great team? Anybody can answer.
They ran into a great team. This is a pretty good Oklahoma team. Jalen Hurts, I talked about this last week. I think Jalen Hurts is the best quarterback we've seen under Lincoln Riley. Better than Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray. His mindset is just in the zone, and he's playing with probably one of the biggest chips on his shoulder in all of college football. I don't think Texas was overrated. The fact that they were able to contain the game to just a 7-point differential is pretty impressive. So, and like we talked about the defense earlier, half of those guys are out. With the depleted team, they're able to keep it close like that. I don't think that this is any cause for alarms or anything like that. This was kind of a game that Texas was kind of expected to lose.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you there, Justin. And you talked about running into a great offense in Jalen Hurts. Texas also ran into a defense that had something to prove on Saturday. Oklahoma has a new defensive coordinator in Alex Grinch, who's come down there from Ohio State, and he's implemented some systems that not a lot of teams have had to face yet. And so they really came out in the first half and really took it to Texas up front and in the secondary. There were coverage sacks, there were defensive line sacks. Texas was just hit in the mouth by a team that came out with a chip on their shoulder defensively, because I'm sure Oklahoma was tired of hearing their defense get bashed in the media after last year's loss to Texas and last year's loss to Alabama.
Yeah, Jeremy?
I'm going to say they're not overrated. If you look at their previous matchup with LSU, they played pretty similar. They struggled through the first half, got their act together the second half, and kept it like cat and mouse, where they didn't lose too embarrassingly. They just kind of held their own and just lost by like a touchdown or whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, if you ask me, I think Texas is a top 15 team who ran into 2 top 4 teams. I mean, LSU, I think they're up to number 2 now.
They're the number 2 team in the country.
And Oklahoma is they're at 5 now. I mean, that's a tough schedule. Talking about tough schedules, right? But Texas has definitely played some really good teams. Injuries definitely have a lot to play into it also. But, so definitely, I agree with all you guys.
Yeah.
Definitely not an overrated team. Oklahoma is just that good. So Justin, after 2 questions, you're at 6 points. Jake and Jared, y'all are at 5. Moving on, the offense looked like a stick in the mud against Oklahoma, gaining just over 300 yards. The only bright spot seemed to be Roschon Johnson, who gained 95 yards on 8 carries and had a touchdown. The Sooner defense seemed to be all over Texas. But do you blame execution on the player side or bad play calling by the coaches?
I'm going to go ahead and pin this one on the play calling. I think it was downright inexcusable on Saturday. I think Tom Herman, especially on second down, got a little bit stagnant with the jet sweep, run pass option type of play that we saw them try to run 5 or 6 times to really no avail. Now, it's one thing to be committed to the running game, but it's another thing to run the ball 36 times for only 100 yards. At that point, you have to change something up, and Texas was not creative enough in their blocking schemes to get space for Roschon Johnson and Keontae Ingram. The other play calling blunder I would point to is Colin Johnson's underuse. Johnson caught 6 of 7 targets thrown his way. Oklahoma could not cover him. It was clear that that was the one mismatch working in Texas's favor, and yet his longest catch was only 22 yards. To me, that's a huge missed opportunity, and that should be pinned on the play calling.
I agree with you on that. You talk about Colin Johnson. Another person is Roschon Johnson, too. I know we talked about the number of yards he had, but those were off of a very limited amount of plays. I believe it was 4 or 5 that total came out to. I know whenever Texas had that big throw down the field to Roschon Johnson, I remember at the end of the first half, I was sitting with my friend, and he was like 83 yards after one half. That's hard. And then the entire drive was more than what Texas had done the first half. So I think using them more was something that kind of irked Texas fans, wondering, hey, we have these 2 really good players on the team. Why aren't they being used more? So I think the play calling definitely plays a factor into it, but a tad bit execution too. Like we said earlier, 9 sacks. That's execution. That's not play calling or anything like that. That is execution. But I blame the majority on play calling.
But the third down situations, the blitz situations, those are created by bad play calls too.
I'm going to disagree. I'm going to say they just were a little in their head. They came to this game thinking in their head, you know what, we beat them the first time, we lost the second time this year, we're going to beat them again. Why? Why aren't we not? So I feel like they could have did better, but like they were mostly in their head at that first half thinking they were going to come out doing the plays perfect, the defense was going to crow them, because in their head they're like, we have the better defense. out of OU. So we shouldn't be able to have problems. And they just were not prepared for like Sam to get sacked 9 times. So I feel like they could have did better with their play calls and execution on their plays, but I just feel like it was mostly just their headspace and their mindset.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. We talked about the tackling at the beginning. That's execution completely. And I know there were also a lot of drops by the Texas wide receivers that definitely contributed and ended drives. But I also agree, the play calling, I felt like Tony Romo up in the press box. Like, I know it's coming. I know they're gonna do the
Bubble screen again.
I felt like Tony Romo for a minute, just calling the Texas plays out, not creative whatsoever.
And to kind of like further on that, you got to kind of realize too, if Texas keeps doing that, Oklahoma's defense is going to catch on real quick. I am sure that Oklahoma came into the game knowing, hey, Devin Duvernay, that's a guy we kind of got a double team at the minimum. So whenever you're doing bubble screen to him and then trying to get him to run down the field, that's only going to work so far. And the fact that we as fans were seeing that late in the second half is just kind of like, what?
I think Ellinger only averaged about 5.5 yards per completion on Saturday. That's not Texas offense. That's not
Sam Ellinger.
There were not nearly enough vertical passing options taken advantage of in that game by Texas, in a game where their receivers were winning the matchups. Now, there were a couple of drops, yes, especially one by Brennan Eagles that was pretty costly. Yeah. But I think you got to go back to those plays. It was a little bit too conservative and a little bit too uninspired.
Absolutely. I think we can all agree, sloppy game in almost every facet by Texas. Justin, you're at 20. Jake, you're at 20. Jared, you're at 18. Whenever we come back, we talk about the MLB debacle with the Dodgers and are the Cowboys overrated? Welcome back to College Crossfire. Before we get back to business, let's check the scoreboard. Justin, you're at 20. 20. I'm an idiot. 10.
Oh,
Jake, you're at 10. I was doubling points.
There we go.
Jared,
Double points round.
You're at 9. I'm sorry.
we were so confused
You're
on
at
how
8,
we
you're at
jumped.
8.
We were talking about it was.
We got 10, 10, 8.
10,
Yeah,
10,
10, 10, 8.
All right, 10.
Last Wednesday, the LA Dodgers hosted the Washington Nationals in a winner-take-all Game 5. Now, I know y'all were watching us instead, so I'll explain what happened. The Dodgers had a 3-1 lead headed into the 8th inning. Dodger manager Dave Roberts decided to bring in ace Clayton Kershaw, who promptly gave up 2 home runs on 3 pitches. The Nationals would go on to win in extra innings and sweep the Cardinals for their first World Series berth. But from the Dodgers' perspective, who's to blame for this collapse? Justin, we're going to start with you.
I think this was Joe's fault.
Joe?
Joe Mama.
I have never
Yeah,
heard
that was
something
my
that
answer.
bad.
No, I'm just kidding. Let's bring it back to reality.
Okay.
Dave Roberts has to know,
Joe
hey,
Mama.
let's not put in the clutch Clayton, or not clutch, exactly opposite of clutch, Clayton Kershaw in at this moment. They're up 3-1 at that point, and then they decide to put in the guy that tends to choke. Excuse me, that was the word I was looking for. And like you said, he lets 2 home runs get by him. I'm a big Clayton Kershaw fan, more than I am a Dodgers fan. To see this perennially happen is very sad. So I do blame Clayton Kershaw in that aspect, because this guy just needs to find something to get out of this funk, please. I would like to see this guy win a World Series at least once, and then I can go be a fan of whatever team I want to. I'm just rooting for this guy. I've been rooting for him since I was a freshman in high school. So please, Clayton Kershaw, if you're watching, just get out of the funk, man. Like, rub an egg on your chest or something like that. Just get out of that funk.
Get a rabbit's foot. Get a rabbit's leg.
I mean,
So
Justin.
sad. It's so sad.
Justin, as a Nationals fan, you might want to completely disregard my opinions here and feel free to, but I don't think you can blame Clayton Kershaw for this. I think Dave Roberts completely mismanaged the end of this baseball game. You're talking about a left-handed pitcher in Clayton Kershaw being left into the game to face one of the best right-handed bats in baseball in Anthony Rendon, who, oh, by the way, has 32 career plate appearances against Clayton Kershaw, on-base percentage over 400. It's a matchup that could have and should have been avoided by manager Dave Roberts when you have the luxury of elite right-handers out of the pen. Kenta Maeda was available. Dustin May was available. Those are guys that had not only shut down the Nationals throughout the series, but they were right-handed batters were hitting less than 200 against them over the course of the entire season. The move to leave Kershaw in to face Rendon makes 0 sense whatsoever. 0 sense. And Clayton Kershaw cannot be held accountable for a spot where he was set up to fail in a relief role that he's not used to.
Nah, I'm going to hold Kershaw accountable. You know, he led them to the defeat. He did the two through consecutive home runs and gave too many runs in the 8th inning. It just, all that and count was on him, and he just led to their defeat.
But Jared, you're asking a guy who's a starting pitcher his whole career.
That's not my problem, though. He's in the National League. He should be doing better. He should not be doing that bad.
All right.
He put faith in his man, and he literally felt the coach.
So
You felt the coach. Cut him out.
I just think Clayton Kershaw is not the type of dominant ace he used to be, where you can just throw him out there against an MVP candidate in a role he's not used to and expect him to get an out. I think it's an all-time terrible managerial move to go to a guy not only with the playoff history that Kershaw has, but in the matchup against Rendon. Rendon only has better on-base percentages against 5 starting pitchers this season than Clayton Kershaw. It's a terrible matchup and one that Dave Roberts should never have allowed to happen.
Well, I'm going to also say,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
you got to be ready. You got to be ready. That's all I'm saying. You got to
Jake,
be ready.
Your passion, you got to get the point. You're right. Clayton Kershaw is a starting pitcher. I understand that he's one of the best pitchers on your team, but he's not a reliever. He's not a playoff pitcher. Not everybody can be Madison Bumgarner, So, Jake, you're going to get the point. So you are up to 11, not 21, 11. Moving on, 2019 was the year the Dallas Cowboys were supposed to win the Super Bowl. Experts and fans alike were high on America's team this offseason. Led by Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott, the Cowboys looked like the days of old. But now, 6 weeks into the season, the Cowboys are 3-3, coming off 3 straight losses, the last one to the Jets. Guys, are the Cowboys the most overrated team this season?
No.
If not,
No, they're not.
what? Wait, Jared, we're going in order now.
You can go ahead.
Okay, go for it, Jared.
They're not overrated, y'all. Come on. Think of it like this. They lost 3, they won 3. They're basically at a clean start. They're just going to start over. We're going to rock it. They're absolutely great. Y'all, I'm just saying. Look at them. Look at them. Dak, Ezekiel, he's eating that up. Y'all just wait. He's in hibernation mode. He's resting. This week, they going to crush the Eagles. I have money on it. They bet not fail. They bet not fail.
All right.
I don't know.
I put in my notes, no 3 under. Justin, what do you got?
Yeah, I don't know about that one, Chief. They lost to the Jets.
That was just a rough game,
They
y'all. It was
lost
just
to
a
the
rough game.
Jets. This is an overrated team without a doubt. But I would like to add that they are not the only overrated team in the NFL right now. I think the Los Angeles Rams, not the Dodgers, moved on from that. The Rams are definitely another overrated team right now. Hopefully they can make some noise with Jalen Ramsey. Just got him playing cornerback. And another team that is very overrated is the Browns. People thought that this was this year. Some people in this very studio picked a bunch of Browns players on their fantasy football team. Luckily, he's not on the panel. I'm not sure what he was thinking, but it's definitely kicking him in the butt right now. So the Cowboys are overrated, but they're not the only overrated NFL team.
Are they the most overrated?
Right now, I would put them at second behind the Browns,
Okay, all right. Second behind the Browns, Jake?
but a close second.
I also have the Cowboys at second, and I agree with Justin that the Rams have been massively overrated this season. They came into the year as Las Vegas' favorite to win the NFC, and now here they are making desperate moves in Week 6 to just try and get a wild card spot. They find themselves really behind the 8 ball in their division. The offense has been out of sorts. But I want to talk for a second about the Dallas Cowboys, because this team to me is just, they look very mediocre. They seem to be a bit of a paper tiger. They have not beaten anybody that they have not punched above their weight in any game this season. Their wins have come against a soft schedule. To me, the Cowboys still have to prove that they belong in the conversation for the playoffs, and they have not done that yet. To me, that screams overrated.
If they want to do that, they can beat the Eagles.
They're going to beat the Eagles, y'all. They're going to beat the Eagles.
I'm going to go with Justin. You're going to get the point. I think the Cowboys, just by definition, are overrated. I don't think anybody can agree that they are favorites to win or make the Super Bowl right now. All right, sure. But
Realistically,
but
no,
I
but
definitely
still.
think they still have some redeeming qualities, if you will. So, Justin, you're going to get the point. Moving on, the NBA preseason is in full swing, and of course, so are the outrageous takes on what will occur this NBA season. The biggest storyline, however, is probably LeBron James and Anthony Davis in LA. The Lakers traded away a lot of their core for this superstar center and have their sights set on the Larry O'Brien Trophy. But do the Lakers have what it takes to win the championship this year? Will they pull it off? Jake, we're going to start with you.
You know, it's hard to say if a team's going to win before the season, but I'm going to go on a limb and say that they have the best chance. You look at LeBron James.
What?
His second season in Miami, got a ring. His second season back in Cleveland, he got a ring. So now it's his second season in Los Angeles, and he has an excellent roster around him. I think Anthony Davis is going to have a great season. He's going to flourish alongside him. And I also look at a team that has a lot of very proven role players, guys like Danny Green, that are playoff performers. I think the Lakers will put it all together, and they are my favorite to win the NBA Finals.
I'm going to disagree. No, I'm going to put my money on Rockets. Forget the Lakers. Look at the lineup for the Rockets. Clint Capella. Let's see. Did y'all hear? They got Russell Westbrook, James Harden. They got this. Like, literally, they could have went last year, but they messed up going against Steph Curry and the freaking Warriors. But you know that. We don't talk about that game, you know. But they got it this year. They always come close. This year, they're just gonna go. They're just gonna go. Lakers, forget the Lakers.
All right, maybe a little homerism over there.
I think a little. He's got the Rockets in there. I think that they are more likely to get to the NBA Finals than the Los Angeles Lakers. I think that the Battle of LA, it's always something that they hype up.
Overrated.
I think after they made that movie, they were like, oh, let's call it the Battle of LA every time the Clippers and Lakers play. But I think that this is probably the best Battle of LA fans will ever see against two really good teams with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George leading the Clippers and Davis and James leading the Lakers. But I don't have the Los Angeles Lakers getting to the finals, maybe the Western Conference Finals, but definitely not the NBA championship. There are just too many good teams in the Western Conference right now, and they can't be.
Guys, who's guarding AD? Who's guarding Anthony Davis on the Rockets?
Somebody going to. He ain't that great. Let's just say
All right, as much as I hate to do this, I think I have to give the points to Jared.
Thank you. You knew you had to. Rockets all the way.
I don't think the Lakers can pull it off. I understand your point about the Battle of LA, but I mean the Rockets. You gain Russell Westbrook.
Absolutely.
You know you may have some chokers, but that's okay. That's all right. That's all right. So at the end of the second period, score: Justin, you're at 11. Jake, you're at 11. Jared, you're at 19.
9.
All right, great to see you guys. Rapid fire is coming up next. Stick around because it is sure to get heated. Welcome back to College Crossfire, and welcome into Rapid Fire. Before we get the debate going, let's remind the audience of the score.
Oh, God.
Justin, you're at 11. Jake, you're at 11. Jared, you're at 9. 19. All right. I like it. All right. All right. Remember, in Rapid Fire, every question is worth 2 points. And you know what that means? It's anybody's game. Thank you.
I haven't heard that.
During the Packers' come-from-behind victory over the Lions Monday night, the officials played a major role. As the Packers tried to rally, two inexplicable defensive hands-to-the-face penalties were thrown on Detroit defensive lineman Trey Flowers. Social media exploded into a frenzy, calling for officials to be held accountable. So if you were in charge of NFL officiating, how would you punish bad calls? Anybody can answer.
Let's see. I'm going to say take him out the game, give him like a $2,500 fine. I don't know. Just automatic loss. You know what? Cut it. Just cut it. The game's over. The game's over.
NFL referees make about $200,000 a year, so a
You know
$2,500.
what?
That's a lot.
Double it. Double it. Let's just double it.
$5,000 fine.
Give them a paycheck now. Give them a good paycheck.
I don't know if fines are going to go over so well with the unions, guys.
Don't talk
think
about
so
the
either.
union.
I
We
think-
don't think about the union. We think about the money. The money. Can I get a witness? Hey, money.
I think you look north of the border and go with a CFL style system. You have another official who's in a remote location that can buzz down and replay these penalties before the next one. They're going to have access to camera angles, and it's not like it would slow the game down. They have until the very next snap. So I think you implement a CFL style review.
So maybe not a punishment, but an alteration.
I'm going to further that with the CFL and say if an NFL referee makes a bad call, demote them to whatever league is beneath that. So you know
Don't
what?
get the
You know
money.
what? Next
Money.
you go to the NCAA, then you go to the CFL, and before you know it, you're reffing Lil Tykes, something like that. You just keep on getting demoted until you can get
Send
back
'em
up
to
to
high
that
school
ranking.
football.
Kind of like Premier League soccer, but with referees.
Justin, you're gonna get
Wow.
That's great. That's
why
great.
he's the champ.
If you can't ref in the NFL, you got to take a step back until you can ref in the NFL. Right? All right, so Justin, you're going to get the 2 points there. As we mentioned earlier, the LA Dodgers lost to the Washington Nationals in not so grand fashion. In the bottom of the 10th, Howie Kendrick launched a ball over the center field fence to propel his team to the NLCS and eventually the World Series. But if you are a Dodgers fan, what do you do after that game? How do you spend the rest of your night after such a crushing loss?
I think this is directed at Justin.
Yeah. What I did last week is I had a Pizookie, so it kind of got me over my sadness. But I know watching that, I remember Matt, Marin, Shaq yelled at me across the table saying, "Justin, how we doing?" And I was like, "Man, sad boy hours came a little early tonight, that's for sure." That was super sad.
I see what you did there with Howie.
Yes.
I'm gonna go ahead and say eat away the sorrows, similar to what Justin would say. But I'm going to Denny's. I'm getting the Grand Slam special because it was a Grand Slam that cut you out of the running.
That's a good one. No, literally, I would have just slept and just in my head, I'm going to be like, that didn't happen. I'm dreaming. We haven't played the game yet. Let's just hold off. You know, that was a bad nightmare. When I wake up, we're going to do this game over. We win. It's just in my head.
But when you wake up, you have to remember that it wasn't a dream.
Right.
You get on the Twitter
Right.
and
But then you go back to sleep and think, that was a dream.
No. Jake, you're going to get the 2 points. Jake, you're
Grand
gonna get the 2
Slam.
points on this one. All about the irony. Grand Slam. You lose for a Grand Slam, so you might as well just make up for it.
Shout out Denny's.
Yeah, shout out to Denny's.
IHOP's better.
Oh, okay. We're not going to talk about that. But what we are going to talk about is the Texas Longhorns uniforms. The Texas Longhorns announced they will be wearing throwback uniforms against Kansas to honor the 1969 National Championship team. I personally think Texas uniforms are perfect the way they are, but if you are going to design your own set for the Longhorns, what would they look like? Or what is a feature you would add to an existing uniform?
I would add Bevo's emblem on the suit. You know, they don't have that. And I feel like that would be an interesting turn. Do like an orange jersey, white print with a white emblem of Bevo on the shoulder pads, and then like in the mix of their numbers have something cool, a cool edit or some unique. You know, you don't see really many unique uniforms. I know, like at my home school, VV, they did stuff like that where they incorporate the mascot and stuff.
You know what? I like that idea. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put Longhorns on the helmet. That is
That's
that
a
is
penalty
definitely
waiting to happen.
I don't care. You know, yeah. You know that is unique in that aspect. That's what's missing on the UT uniform are actual Longhorns.
I was, you know what? I was gonna keep it a little simpler. I feel like those horns could maybe get in the way. So I'm thinking of incorporating more iconic Texas-style elements of the uniform. Maybe a star, maybe a Texas flag design on the helmet. It is the Lone Star State after all. There's not a star to be found on the jersey. There's also a nice little clean State of Texas outline. It's recognizable anywhere. And hey, you're the flagship of the state. You should be representing your state on the uniform. That makes a statement to your in-state rivals as well.
Yeah, that sounds a little like tech to me. I like the front of the Cadillac with the giant horns. Put it on a helmet.
Yeah.
What's targeted?
Put it on a
Who's
helmet.
that? I don't know her. So, Justin, you're going to get the points and the back-to-back win. Congratulations, Justin. Do we have time for FaceTime? No, we do not.
No, we do not.
Sorry,
That's okay.
Justin. That is all the time we have
Poor
for tonight.
Saint kid.
Congratulations again to our winner, Justin. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. Be sure to check out our brand new show this semester, The One and Only Sports Show, hosted by Thomas Fitch and Robert Trevino at 8 a.m. every Friday. Also, tune in to College Press Box every Monday at 9:30 p.m. for the latest sports news on the 40 Acres. Don't forget to follow at TSTV Sports on social media. And tune in TSTV Game Day. We are covering the Texas versus A&M hockey game at Friday.
Friday at 8:50.
Friday at 8:15.
8:50.
8:50.
Late start. Stay up. It's going to be a great game. All right. For all the panelists and everyone in studio and Master Control, we'll see you next week.
Woo!
Welcome back into College Crossfire for your Facebook Live exclusive FaceTime of Justin Morris. Justin, The stage is yours.
I don't have much to say this week. I kind of got my rant out about Chris Del Conte and all those people that are hating on him last week. So what I'm going to talk about this week, I'm going to plug TSTV Game Day. We will be going live at 8:45 from Chaparral Ice Center. You can tune in on Facebook, the exact same format that you are watching this right now. You can just continue watching on Friday. We'll be having some live coverage from the game. Sure to be excited. It's Texas versus Texas A&M. I know that the records are kind of off right now. It's a pretty big difference in quality of team right now, but it's a rivalry game. Should be a really good one. I know we got Thomas and Robert. Is Robert on the call? Who else is on the call?
Robert's sideline.
Robert Silent and Turner. Our host Turner Barnes is on the call with Thomas Fitch. Sure to be a good game.
Look out for the new helmets, Longhorns.
Yeah, look at the new Longhorn
Bring them to the
helmets.
ice,
Yeah,
dude.
we're bringing them to the ice.
All right, that's all the time we have from College Crossfire. We'll see you next week.
Legit.